And my wife just said, like, entrepreneurs go in, brands come out. And she's like, Brand Factory. And I was like, oh, yeah, that's what we're going to call it. We're going to call it Brand Factory Inc. And like, that was it.
All right, guys, we have Mr. Doc Williams here all the way from the other side of the world. It is actually 12 hours in difference from here. So here it's 12 lunchtime, and in his side of the world, it's 12 midnight. So, Doc, thank you so much for taking the time. It is very late there. You look so fresh and energetic. I wish I'm drinking whatever it is you're drinking. And we are so happy that you are here with us today.
Well, thank you so much for having me. Yeah, it's just my every night. I know people like, you need to stop with energy drinks. I just have one Red Bull a night. I'm sorry, guys. I just have to have one. But this is what makes it. But I'm a night person anyway, so I appreciate you doing this at this time. I'm totally fine with that.
Likewise, Doc. And I'm wondering, so Doc Williams, we met in a podcast matchmaking platform, and I was like, when I saw your message, I was thinking, is a doctor really going to come into my show? And and how intellectual is this conversation going to be? And when I talked with you just a few minutes ago, I knew it was going to be a very, very fun conversation. I'm already enjoying it thus far. So tell us about that name that you have. Is it a nickname?
Yeah. I'm going to be honest. I can't promise you this being intellectually like stimulating, but I'm going to try. But no. No, I'm not a real doctor. I was in healthcare for a number of years, but I did not rise up to MD status.
Mm-hmm.
But no, I have another name. I can tell you if you want. Do you want?
Sure.
Me to
Yeah. I'd love to know.
Yeah. So my full name is Dakari, but so it's spelled DA capital KARI.
Dakari.
And every time
name.
people, thank you. When in the States and when people see that, it gets butchered to Daiquiri, Dasani, Bacardi, Ducati, and I can go on. I can go on.
Oh my gosh.
So many things. And like, I've had teachers for years. They would just look at me, wouldn't even try to say my name, and they just go on. Oh, it was terrible. And so years, like, no matter how many times I would play basketball, sports, whatever, and coaches used to just say, like, we're going to call him Doc. We're going to call him Doc. And throughout my life, no matter how many times I would meet new groups, everyone thought the brilliant idea that, like, oh, man, we got a name for him. It's Doc. Let's go. I'm like, oh, yeah, let's roll with that. Let's just do that name. Let's just go with that name.
Got it. So we have gone to the history lesson of where that name came from, that nickname came from. Dakari, you'd fit right in the Philippines. And I
really?
think, like, it's the slang, right? So in the US, they have a slang that's different from here. Here, we're used to the staccato kind of pronunciation. So we're kind of used to it here.
Good times.
Yeah. So, Doc, you have founded your company right now. You're the CEO and founder of Brand Factory Inc. I want to know about your entrepreneurial journey. Were you always entrepreneurial? When did you found Brand Factory? When did you start your first business, maybe? Can you tell us about that?
Yeah. You know what? I tell you the truth, my parents are very, they're not entrepreneurial. They're so like my parents, like they've had both their jobs for like 20 years straight, same place. They love going to the same places. And they just love routines, and they didn't push it for me to be like that, but I've just never, ever been like that my entire life. Like I started my first business probably 7 or 8 selling trading cards and candy. So I first candy, and then I got my first set of Pokemon cards, and I had a Charizard first edition, sold that for $100.
Wow.
I thought I was the richest child on earth. And from there, I was like, oh, I love this. I was like, I can just flip things. And then from there, I became a wedding DJ at 12 years old.
Wow.
That's and young. Then, yeah. I mean, see, the thing is, and I tell people like all the time. So when I was like 12, from 12 to like 18, I practically looked the same. I had a mustache at 12. I could get into places. I used to DJ at clubs by 14. So like people would just let me in, and I wasn't, I could act mature enough. Like no one ever thought, like, why would they ever think a 12-year-old was DJing a wedding? And my parents would drop me off at the wedding, and I would DJ, and then because I didn't have my license, and they would just pick me up and just roll out. And I used to do that. I DJ'd all the way through college. So
that's funny. Like the DJ is getting dropped off and picked up by his parents.
Oh yeah, man. Yeah. So like pretty much my entrepreneurship, like it started very young. And actually recently I was with one of my friends. He's only like 11 months older than me. He's the only person I know in my life that has had more jobs or started more businesses than me. So I'm in the high 40s, maybe low 50s. He's had 81 jobs. He's the only one that's ever been.
Wow, that's a lot of jobs. And how young is he? Is he like in his 30s?
Yeah. So he's how old am I? He's 34. I'm 33.
Wow, that's a lot of jobs for a 33-year-old.
We were always hustling. We were always doing something. So yeah, always doing something. So yeah, always loved doing that. So you just tell me, and you just tell me where you want me to start or what businesses. But I've been a drone pilot. I was a crime scene cleaner. I was a lifeguard. Opened my gym when I was 23, my first one. I was a massage therapist by 18 and went to school right out of high school. Then I was a physical therapist assistant. Then I was a chiropractic assistant. I can go on and on and on.
Wow. You've had a lot of experience, Doc. You're like a life doctor. You give so much advice with all of your experiences right now. And you're so young. You're 33 years old. Actually, we're not so far apart. I'm 31, so I'm just 2 years younger. Turning 32 this year.
Love it.
I'm nowhere near your 40 plus, jobs and businesses. Maybe you could say like I've had one job ever. That's an IT guy in Hewlett Packard, and I stayed there for 5 months because SEO Hacker was taking off during that time, and I had to quit and just go do SEO Hacker, and I stuck with it. So I've only had one job and 4 businesses. That's it. That's all. That's all I got in my belt. Nothing else.
Hey, that's pretty good though. Hey, how about that? Like, no, if it's taken off, the only reason I had to keep switching because I wasn't successful. So obviously you were successful. This is fine. This is a good thing. So
well, to each his own, right? I mean, right now you are killing it with Brand Factory. And talking about Brand Factory, how did you land to this idea of, oh yeah, this is what I want to do, help companies find their brand and flagship product? Like,
yeah, I mean,
who thinks of that? I mean, that's brilliant, but at the same time, that's kind of scary because companies should know what their brand is, right? So how'd you come up with this idea?
Yeah, okay, so you want to hear the long story for it? I'll try to keep this down.
Long story. We have time.
Yeah, that's it. So the long story is basically, after I left healthcare, I wanted to open a gym because I was really big into CrossFit. I was competing at the time, so I was in kettlebell sport. So that was trying to be an Olympic sport at the time. So I was doing those competitions, love CrossFit. And I really was terrible at running a brick and mortar business. It just wasn't there. But anyway, I got burned out. And my videographer who made my first commercial for the gym, there was a competition that was going to be, do you know who Arnold Schwarzenegger? That guy, he had this thing called the Arnold Sports Festival, and he was filming a reality show. And my videographer who did my commercial, I said, hey, bro, like I need you to film me so I can get on this reality show as a trainer.
Mm-hmm.
and he filmed it, and I ended up on the show, and I took third place in the competition, and the CFO of On It was there. So the company that Joe Rogan, is an investor, blah, blah, blah. So I ended up on the show, met Arnold, and then I was meeting a bunch of athletes, and I started ghostwriting for athletes.
Mm-hmm.
And what I kept finding was a lot of athletes had like these huge audiences on Instagram and whatever.
Yeah.
They didn't want to write. And it was so easy to build funnels for them. And I was like, listen, I'll listen to you. I'll pick up your voice because I was a writer. In between all this, I work for ESPN. And I was like, hey, I'll start ghostwriting for you and building out your funnels. So I started doing that. And I was in the fitness world, but a bunch of people kept coming up to me when I was working with fitness athletes, and they're like, hey, listen, like, I'm not an athlete, but I want you to like do what you did for them, for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, maybe this is a big thing. And I was like, you know what? I can build pretty good personal brands. Like I can do it just by listening to their voice and finding out like what makes them unique, what products people wanted to hear from them. And so Brand Factory was really there. So I worked with athletes, but working with entertainers and athletes, there's a lot of egos and there's a lot of things I just do not feel like dealing with. And I was talking to my wife. Oh yeah, it was just crazy. It was just because everyone kisses up to them and everyone never tells them no. So it's very hard for you to have a conversation, and it's very
honest.
How can I say? It can. Yeah, because they're not used to hearing that feedback, so they don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
So one day I was explaining all these things to my wife, like this is what I want to do and all this stuff. And my wife just said like, entrepreneurs go in, brands come out. And she's like, Brand Factory. And I was like, yeah, that's what we're going to call it. We're going to call it Brand Factory. And like, that was it.
Behind every great man.
Yeah. She was like, and I was like, what? And she's just like, yeah, she came up with the name. I was like, that's it. That's it. Yeah. We're going to call it that. Yeah. And then we just went off to the races.
Yeah. Fantastic. So you founded Brand Factory, and how long has it been since that day?
I'd say about 2.5 years, maybe 3. Now,
2.5 years.
I had another company called Toolkit. It was pretty much the same thing, but it was specifically, I only worked with fitness entrepreneurs only.
Are you still running that business right now?
No. So it was me and my good friend. He was in tons of other businesses. He's awesome. But we were just like, hey, listen, I don't want to work with athletes anymore directly like this. It was just, there's so much. There could be a whole other episode about working with athletes. So I was like, no, but I really want to go in this direction. He's like, man, do what you feel is fine. Do what you find is right. And at the same time, I had been already using AppSumo for about 6 years, and people would always ask me like, Doc, because I looked at my account. I think I'm over 400 deals right now, something like that.
Wow. That's a lot of deals that you bought from Noah Kagan.
Listen, I made that man, like I built that house for him with all of the sweat and money I've given him. So,
oh man,
and so a lot of people, when I was building businesses, I couldn't afford HubSpot when I first started. So really I started building digital businesses 6.5 years ago. And a lot of athletes couldn't afford HubSpot, couldn't afford all these big. So I would just buy tech stacks. I would build and Frankenstein their business off of AppSumo deals. And everyone later on would be like, Doc, like what deals should I buy? What should I do? And like, I was always doing that. So around the same time with Brand Factory, I'm like, I'm going to go in this journey. And at the time, Noah had an event where it was a charity bike ride. And I was like, listen, I've never been around Noah, never been to Austin. I was like, you know what? And throughout my entire career, that's how I get people. I will fly anywhere. That's how I get clients all the time. I've driven to Toronto. I've taken planes across the world just to be like, get in front of people, because I know if they're in front of me, I can close them. I just need to be in front of them.
Yeah.
And so I went to Austin. He had this event, and we were actually all staying in the same house. I don't know if you know who Andrew Warner is from Mixergy, but
I think I've heard of him. Yeah.
He's another podcaster. So we were all in the same house, and Noah was like, listen, like a lot of people, obviously they're like, okay, Noah, what do you want? And I was like, listen, bro, I was like, I love what you do, but I'm like, I want to meet everyone from AppSumo. And he's like, you want to meet Eamon, which is the president of AppSumo? And he's like, really? Like, that's all you want? I was like, yeah, like I want to meet them. So he's like, well, he's at a club down the street. So he called him. He's like, just go there. So I met them. And then from that point on, I pretty much worked with AppSumo after that.
Really? Wow.